hold them like this, and she'll sit there like this pretty readily. Yeah, she's got kind of sharp paws, doesn't she? Is that good like that? Does that feel comfy? You can also sit right here if you want to watch. Sometimes if you're really good, you'll actually watch. Reach your arm up like this. And you'll sit there like a really cool, like, lizard pirate. Actually, you have a spare chair? Just like, I'm going to grab you a chair so you can just sit with me the whole time, okay? So I'll talk about her. And you can point to the body parts that I talk about, okay, when I talk about them. So you're going to be my helper here, okay? Hop up here, pop a squat, mister. Cool. She can sit right here on you. So, Skylar, I want you to point to her spikes. Where do you see spikes on her? Skylar, touch those spikes for me. Are they very sharp? Are they sharp as they look? Absolutely not. So bearded dragons are a really cool species. Bearded dragons come from Australia. They're from central and northern Australia. They do come from the parts of Australia that are very, very hot. Okay, very extreme desert climates. And they have these spiky textures on them. Now, why would it be beneficial, Skylar? Why do you think it's helpful for her to look like she's spiky, even if she's not that spiky? For her to stay alive, that's exactly right. So, I don't know about you, but I wouldn't want to put her in my mouth, would you? No, I feel like it would hurt my mouth because she's spiky. So, this is a common defensive strategy in the desert, okay? Most animals in the desert are not what we call a specialist feeder. And a specialist feeder means an animal that only eats one or two things. If you're in the desert and you only eat McDonald's French fries, well, you're probably not going to do very good. You're going to have to work a long time to find those French fries. And in the process, you're going to subject yourself to a long time in that hot, hot sun. You're going to waste and lose a lot of energy. So instead, they're what we call generalist feeders. So most animals in the desert eat a wide array of animals, a wide array of prey. So that's also why most animals in the desert adopt these horny protrusions to make them look like they're less tasteful. They're like, I'm going to look like less tasteful than other things, so let's sit next to me and not me.
Well, I don't know what I'm doing.
Another very cool thing about these kind of horny protrusions, these spikes, is sometimes some animals are actually able to use them to collect the very small amount of water that's freely floating in the air as evaporation. So in the morning, everywhere in the world, in the morning, there's a very small amount of dew in the air. So you see in the springtime when you go up in the morning, and the grass is covered with beautiful dew, and the sun's hitting it, very, very nice looking thing. So even in the desert sometimes, it cools down at nighttime, and when it cools down, a very small amount of water that'll be floating in the air will condense, okay? It'll turn back into water droplets. And sometimes, if these guys are lucky, these water droplets can actually condense on the tips of their spikes. So some animals will actually even have little grooves in their head that these water droplets can then run down the spikes as they form and run right into their mouth and make it drink. That's pretty amazing. It's really cool. It's kind of like those cool like hats that you can put like pop cans in and just drink with a straw, right? It's really convenient for them. So bearded dragons are no exceptions with the way they eat. They're also an extremely generalized feeder, okay? They'll eat a lot of things. In particular, we call these guys an opportunistic omnivores. So what is an omnivore? Scarlett, do you know what an omnivore is? Well, I'm going to tell you. An omnivore is an animal that eats not only meats, but it also eats vegetation, okay? So in particular, bearded dragons will eat veggies, okay? They will eat fruits, they will eat veggies, they will eat small insects, they will eat small rodents. In fact, that's what we feed them in the zoo. But in the wild, I would hazard a guess that they would eat literally anything they can fit in their mouth. If they see a cacti that's unfortunately ended up being broken open by a larger animal, they can eat those fruit inside the cactus. They see little bugs that are also around feeding on that cactus, they will gobble those up. They see a little mouse or a rodent run by, they'll eat that. If they see a smaller lizard run, they'll eat that. If they see a smaller snake, they'll eat that. If they see a small bird, they'll eat that. If they for some reason see a human that's only this big, they will probably eat that. A lot of people ask me if a bearded dragon would ever eat a human, but I tell them that probably wouldn't happen because we're so big, unless, you ever see that movie, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids? If they encountered a bearded dragon in that movie, they would have been in a lot of trouble. And probably they could have been eaten by a bearded dragon. But unless you're about this big, and you're much bigger than this big, I think we're safe in this bearded dragon. You don't have to worry about it, okay? A lot of people also wonder this. Scarlett, I wonder if you can tell me this. Lucia here has holes in the sides of her head. Do you see that? What in the world could that be? I don't know. See this? What do you think that could be? Her ear, yeah, high five, man, that's exactly right. A lot of people are like, what are the holes in the side of their head? And I always turn around and I ask them, what are the holes in the sides of your head? And they go, I don't have holes in the side of my head. And I go, you don't have ears? And they're like, oh, those holes. Do you have a question, Hank? You're going to say that? Okay, cool. So again, beavers are really cool animals. In the pet trade, they're very, very popular, and as pets, they make really good pets. They can live usually in the range from 12 to 20 years, I would say, on average. So a very good median range pet, kind of like cat and dog life range, which is a good thing. And then because they're a desert animal, you don't have to regulate things like humidity. When you get animals that are really tropical animals, you have to be very, very careful with the amount of moisture that's in their terrarium, that's in the cage with them. And you have to really regulate that. It can have a profound effect on how they eat, how they grow, and how they shed. Okay, so reptiles shedding is a very important thing for them. It's very bad for the health if they keep having bad sheds. So, what does your back feel like? It's pretty nice. It's got an interesting texture to it, doesn't it? And that texture is very important, okay? Not only is the color of an animal important for its camouflage, for hiding, okay? So she looks like a sandy color. And being a sandy color, what would she hide really well in? In sand, that's exactly right. So she can hide very well on a sandy background. However, if she had really beautiful, soft, glossy scales on a rough, dull, sandy background, do you think she'd be able to blend in very well? Even if she was the same color as the sand, when that sun hits her and it gives a nice, beautiful reflection like an iridescence, she'd be able to stick out like a sore thumb and she'd get gobbled up by a bird just like that. So that's why she actually has to have these little special bumps, because it helps confuse the animal in the sand that she's buried in amongst. It's very, very important. So one last thing before I take someone else, or maybe I'll get Skylar to walk to the front row to these guys here. You can hold her and they can pet her. I'll show you a little bit about how we do hands-on with animals. We're going to look right here. See this little dot on the top of her head? So beardies have a really cool little dot on the top of their head. A lot of lizards have this actually. It's actually a third eye, also known as a pineal eye, and it's an organ that can actually sense changes in light. It's very, very cool. So even from dead asleep, there was a bird or something that flew over top and casted a shadow over the head of Mushu here. She would be able to wake up and sense that changing light, know if there's a predator above her, and run away instantly and go hide or something. It's really, really cool. Yeah, it's kind of really alien actually. It's almost creepy, but it's really neat. So Skylar, this is what we're going to do. I'm going to show you how we do hands-on here for a second. We use a really good one to learn. So stand up. Actually, come right down here. I want you to hold your hand like this, okay? Hold it close to you. So go like this, all right? And up like this. We're going to try and let her, it's okay. We're going to let her hands in. Just let her rest here, okay? Once she settles down, she doesn't scratch. See like this? So watch, we're going to come over here. You good? And we're going to let these guys, you guys can stand up, you just come pet her right on the back, okay? So a good thing with beardies, when you support their whole body, that's when they'll stop to move around. You won't get scratching and stuff like that. You can give them a pet right on the back.